right. Welcome, everyone. This is 830 Intro to Metro Piano. Hope you guys are in the right room. Going to be doing some 18th and 19th century classics. Phil Price over here. No hands, too. It's amazing. He's really good at it. Welcome. This is Tips and Tricks. Let's go flip over to the PowerPoint presentation. My name is Weston Hutchins. I'm a program manager on the IDE platform team. Work on the Visual Studio shell, which means I get to do a lot of the fun stuff that you've seen in Visual Studio 11 around IDE improvements. So things like Solution Explorer, Airless, Toolbox, the menus and commands. That's generally what I've been working on. And this is my esteemed colleague, Mr. Phil Price, who will be doing some demos today. And how many of you guys have been to a tips and tricks session before? All right, not many. Great. This is awesome. Well, the whole goal is to make you guys more productive. We're going to be clippy for all of you today. If you have questions, we're going to be there. We actually went on Channel 9 Live today. I don't know how many of you guys saw it, but they basically started quizzing us on keyboard shortcuts. So people were writing in and being like, well, what's the keyboard shortcut to invoke some of these menus over here? And Phil and I got 90% of them, but we're going to see if we can do a little better in this talk. So the format is really quick, 60 minutes or 55 minutes of rapid-fire tips and tricks. We're going to throw a ton of stuff at you. We're going to try to cover a little bit of C#, VB, and C++. Obviously, there's not a lot of time with only 55 minutes, but we'll try to give you guys a quick run-through. We're going to be demoing some new VS11 features and also Visual Studio 2010 features. Some of these work, and Visual Studio 2008 have been there. We will do our best to call out when some of these features only work in Visual Studio 11. But when in doubt, try it out in 2010. If it doesn't work, then it's VS11 only. And we were trying to get a lot of new tips and tricks for this. We've done this talk a few times, and we like to keep it fresh. So a lot of this stuff today, we polled Visual Studio developers that I work with on our floor to give us their best tips and tricks. So the stuff that you'll see today, we wanted to make it real-world usable, so you guys can take this and apply it to your coding day in and day out. So with that, the agenda, we've tried to bucket this into four sections. The first is writing and navigating code faster. Then we're going to jump into managing your environment. We're going to talk about search and find, and if you guys do not know the difference between search and find, that's good, because I don't either, but we're going to try to break it up. And then last, we're going to end on debugging, which I feel is probably the most important topic out of this, the thing that you guys will get the most value out of. So we'll end the recap on that. The flyers, yes. So we've added a reference section. Please don't worry about copying down all your notes. Everything that we're going to show today, we've printed out, and Miss Vanna White over here is modeling, and she'll be handing those out at the end over here. You can come grab those up, and those will be all the shortcuts. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Phil, who's going to talk about writing code faster.
Okay, right. So, number 4, that's me. So we're going to start off with some editor IntelliSense tips and tricks. I've got a C++ console application here. Nothing fancy, just a regular C++ console application. So we've made some changes to the way IntelliSense works for C++ in the new release. We kind of brought it in line with how C# and VB's IntelliSense work. So we call this aggressive IntelliSense, and I'll kind of show you how this works. You'll see that it started to pop up straight away. So I don't have to wait till I get to a member. I don't have to press Control-J. It just pops up right away. I can press Tab to complete that. So what I'm going to do is write a real simple 101 application, which is like print all the arguments that are specified to this executable back to the output window. So I'm going to do header and dot. Okay, and I've got the member list up. And we made some changes here too. We used to do a prefix search across all the members, so a starts with. And we've changed this to a substring search, and we also do fuzzy matching. So if I type in char, you'll see that I've matched a member that starts with char, but I also have matched members that end with or contain the string char. So this is really useful when you're trying to find your way around an object. Imagine something in a UI thing, you type in height, you get all the properties and members to do with height. For fuzzy, we do fuzzy matching as well. So if I type in AC, I match the substring AC, but I also match append char, because it's looked at the capitalization there and figured, hey, this might be a valid match. So I'm going to just do a quick format here and create my header string. Some boilerplate stuff. We'll just do number of, oops. of arguments. Excuse my typing, this is a new laptop for me, and it's taking me a little bit of a while to get used to. Okay, so we're going to have a string that has a number of arguments. The next thing I want to do is use a for loop, and I'm going to enumerate through all the arguments that are specified in the parameters here. So we've added support for code snippets in C++ now. Jason demoed some of this for JavaScript, and it's been in C# and VB for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've added it now to C++. To insert a code snippet, I can do for and press tab, and it's kind of put the boilerplate code in there for a for. There's another way to do this too, which is Control-KX, and that's going to bring up the snippet picker UI, and it's going to give me just a list of snippets. Type for and press enter. Now within the snippet, there are regions. So you'll notice that I and length are kind of highlighted. So what happens when I change I into index and press tab to commit it? Every instance of I within the snippet is updated to what I typed in the first region. Then it moves to the next one that I can update, so length, and for that I want argc. Tab to commit, and tab will cycle between the regions. Shift tab will cycle backwards, and when I'm done with this, I can press enter to commit it, and it's going to put my cursor right in the for loop. Now I want to have a C string here. I'm going to call this argument, and we'll do argument format. Trying to make something that actually works. %d, %s, and we'll pass in index and index. There we go. And the next thing I want to do is print this to the console. So we'll use a standard namespace. I want cout. I actually want wcout, still matched. Argument. And then let's just use an end line here. Okay? So that's some of the changes we made to IntelliSense. We've also added another feature that's available in C# and VB to C++, and that's highlight references. So I put my editor cursor into this variable argument. You'll notice here and here, other references to it are highlighted. Now that's kind of neat. You can get a feel for where it's used, but you can actually navigate between these with a keyboard shortcut. So if I press Control-Shift-Up, it's going to go to the previous reference, Control-Shift-Up again, previous one, and it cycles, and Control-Shift-Down goes the other direction. Now, I actually kind of want to finish this off, so a little tip that people don't know, Control-C with no selection is actually going to copy the entire line. Then I can just do Control-V to paste this up here.
I found that out last night.
I did find it out last night, and I've got to show this to everyone. And so, this is wrong, but I can just go ahead and update this. And hopefully I've passed my CS 101 course now.
Looks good.
Yeah, so there's one more thing. Jason talked about some of the colorization updates we've made for C++, some of the tokenization. So I'm going to set up this little demo here. I've got a global scope and a local scoped variable of the same name. You can do this in C++. But imagine I was going to use it in my format string here. And imagine that I had loads of code here, loads of important code. And I can't really tell where this guy comes from, right? I have no idea if it's a local or a global one. I know there's something called a mount. So one thing we can do, which is pretty neat, we go to fonts and colors and go down to C++, local variable. I can choose to color local variables differently to other kinds of variables, like globals or arguments. So let's just set this to green.
Why don't you maximize VS too?
Oh, OK.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. What's the keyboard shortcut for that, Wes?
For maximization?
Yeah.
Windows up.
Boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you
And, and you can see now amount here is green because it means local. You'll see this guy up here is green as well because it's local. But the global one is black, the default color. I'll go ahead and delete this guy. You can see now this one is black, so it gives you like an at-a-glance view of the scoping of variables. So I'm going to switch over to some C# now and do some code generation. And so what I'm going to do, real simple application here, is just going to wait for 1 second. I'm really stretching myself for these demos. And so I'm going to type, I want to just stub out the code just in my main method and just go ahead and implement it later. So I want a class called wait, and I'm going to press space. And you can see IntelliSense has totally defeated me. I did not want to insert duplicate wait object exception, but it's gone ahead and done that. And that is aggressive IntelliSense. So I can do Control-Z and get back to where I was, but that's kind of annoying. You don't know when this is going to complete, so you're going to randomly pressing Control-Z. One thing you can do is switch into suggestion first mode, and that's Control-Alt-Space. So now when I type wait, you'll see that the presentation has changed a little bit. We've got what we have typed as the first item, and then matches as a second item. So now when I press space, it's not going to go and complete for me. But if I really did want duplicate weight object exception, I could press tab, and it will complete, or we can, navigate using, up, down within the list, like this, and press space, and that's going to complete. So now I'm in suggestion mode. Let's stub out our code and say weight W equals new weight. And I've got an error, unsurprisingly. The error says that, hey, I don't know about this weight class. Where's it come from? I don't know. But you'll also see this little blue box here. And this little blue box is like my favorite feature in Visual Studio. So I'm going to zoom in with Control-Shift greater than. Ooh. And you can see there's this little blue box here. And this little blue box is a smart tag, and it's something to help you fix your code. If I mouse over this, it's kind of, and click this, and I get this little context menu here for ways that I can generate a new class for weight. It's going to help me fix this. But as you can imagine, especially if I zoom out a little bit to like a normal font size, it's kind of annoying to move the mouse and click this. There is a keyboard shortcut for this guy, and if there's one keyboard shortcut I'd like you guys to remember, it's this one. It is Control Dot. It's going to automatically pop open the menu and select the first item, then Enter to commit it. So you can get really quick with these once you've learned all the smart tags, Control Dot Enter, to start generating a lot of code for you. So in suggestion first mode, I want to put a method in on my weight class. So let's call it doWeight. So I'm going to take a time span. And we do fs, fuzzy matching, for from seconds. And again, we're going to get an error and a little blue box, so we press Control Dot. And this is giving us an option to generate the method for doWeight based on our usage. Press Enter again. It's going to go and make that edit to that weight.cs file. I didn't point this out, but I just want to get back to it. Weight.cs was added to our project as a file when we generated the class. So I want to go and look at what the IDE has generated for me. I'm going to use go to definition, keyboard shortcut F12, jumps us right into the file and puts our editor cursor on the method. And now I want to go ahead and implement this. So I'm going to call thread.sleep. And you'll notice, I'm going to get an error here, and a little blue box. I'll press Control Dot. And this one's a little bit different to the first one. What it's saying is, oh, well, I found a class called thread, but it's in a namespace you're not using. Would you like me to either add that namespace or change it to use a fully qualified name? So we'll go ahead and add the using. And at the top of the file on this line here, you can see it's added the using statement for us. And I can do thread.sleep. We'll pass in the time span. Little tip, I found this out the other day too. If you mouse over sleep, you get the, you get the quick info. Keyboard shortcut for this to stop you moving the mouse is Control-KI.
Yeah, so I always use this, and how many people type a method, they hit the parentheses, and then they forgot what they were supposed to put in there, and so they delete the parentheses and type it again? Yeah, I do that, yeah.
So there is a keyboard shortcut for that as well, which is, what is it again? Control-Shift-Space? Yes, remembered it. And that's going to bring up the parameter info once you're within the left paren. All right, so the next thing I want to do, I had a code review, and Wes told me time span's a really bad name for a variable. So I'm going to call the variable Wes, which I think is a better name.
Yep.
And you'll notice this little red box. And red box, think red refactoring. So I'm going to do Control Dot. And what that's going to do is say, hey, everywhere where you did have time span, do you want to rename it to Wes? It's going to hit Enter, and you see it's updated this line here, and the error goes away. And this also works for methods. So if I want to rename this to sleep, Control Dot, rename, and any class that's any bit of code that's calling this has, that reference has been updated. So little pro tip here for C#, to walk back the go to definition stack, you can press Control-Shift-8 to go back up, and Control-Shift-7 to go back down. Now that's independent to navigate to.
Yep.
It's only for F12. So Control-Shift-8 goes back up. And we can see right here, we've updated the code to use sleep instead of doWeight. And I think back to Wes now.
Cool. Thank you, Phil. All right, we'll flip it over. And I am going to talk a little bit about some of the window management, document management features that can help you guys be a little bit more productive in multi-monitor environments. How many of you guys use more than one monitor? A lot. Great. That's fantastic. So hopefully some of the tips I'm going to give you here will help you be a little bit more productive in multi-mon setups. Well, so the first thing that I wanted to show off is a new feature that we've added to the Solution Explorer called single-click preview. And what's happening now is every time I go and click on a file inside Solution Navigator, it's opening in this reusable tab called the Preview tab. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. We've talked about it in a few different sessions at this conference, but this is a new feature for Visual Studio 11. And what it does is allows you to reuse the same space in your tab wall. So for things like F12, if I want to go to def, it'll go and use the preview tab to go and show you that information. And if you want to go and commit, you can either hit this button over here, or you can just type anything in here. So if I just hit space, it will say, well, you care about this file, you want to go edit it. So that's one of the ways that we've added some features to help you guys reduce the amount of tabs you have open inside Visual Studio. So I'm going to do my best to simulate a multi-mon environment. Let me go ahead and minimize this stuff back here. Let's just open up a few files. So in VS 2010, we added the ability for you to float off document windows. And this was nice. This was a first step in getting a multi-mon environment set up, but it did have a number of limitations. One, the first question that everyone obviously asked was, well, why can't I put 2 document windows in there? Well, good news. In Visual Studio 11, we have added the ability to dock multiple tabs to the same document wall. And what's nice about this is you're going to get, let's go ahead and drag off a few more. These do support all of the same Windows keyboard shortcuts like Control Left, Control Right, Control Up, and so on and so forth. But they also work with the taskbar as well. So if I hover over these, now every single floating document wall that I have in my system will show up as a nice preview. And some tips on interacting with these is you can obviously use Alt-Tab to go and cycle through these windows. But a little Windows shortcut is if you hold the Windows key down and you select the position, you'll notice that Visual Studio is in the number 3 position right now. And if I press Windows key 3 and keep on pressing that, that will actually cycle through all of the open documents that I have, all of the open floating documents and my main IDE for that Visual Studio instance. If you do Windows key Shift and 3, that will launch a new instance. And Windows key Alt and 3 will pop open the context menu, and what I use this for is all the time to go get recent files and things like that. So if I want to get these things back into my main IDE, I can click and drag them in there, or if you hold down the Control key and click on the title bar, these will dock right back inside the main window. So that's a Control double click on the title bar to bring them back. Now, I've set up another project. It really is just a dummy project. There's not a whole lot here, but I want to show you some new functionality that we've added to Solution Explorer that I think helps a lot with multi-mon, and I've been using a lot at work, is if I go and drag off a single file, what I can do now with the new Solution Explorer in VS11 is create another instance of it. And once I do that, I can drag it over to this screen and pretend this is my second monitor. I can click on this View Additional Information or press Control right arrow, and it'll pop open this menu. I select Contains, and now what I get is a scoped instance of essentially Visual Studio over on my right-hand side monitor. Clicking on these files will only open in this window over here. All my other files will continue to open here just fine. I can also use Search to search just over this particular instance and this particular project inside VS. So this is something that I've been using a lot. If I have a lot of projects that I'm working on, I say, well, this project's on my right monitor and this other project's on my left monitor. And it's been really helping me organize the way I work with projects inside VS. All right, so that's some window management tips. And now I'm going to kick it back over to Phil.
OK, next up, we're going to talk a little bit about toolbars. You saw in Jason's talk, we kind of simplified the toolbars at the top here. They're much more sparse than they used to be. Trust me, this is a good thing. They kind of got a bit crazy in the last release and had tons of stuff in there. So we kind of like filtered them down to just the set that we think are most commonly used by everybody. But let's say, hey, I want to add something back. And it's super easy. You can click on the overflow and then add remove buttons. And you'll see all the things that would have been there are now disabled. Now I want find for another little demo, and start page, because Wes really likes to start page.
I do.
Yeah? Did you used to PM it?
I might have.
All right.
Yeah.
You'll see that I have show start page on startup unselected. OK. The reason I brought up find is there's a cool little bug that turned into a feature here, and it's got a little bit of a backstory. So this old find bar here, not the new one, I can just type in like, oops, let's focus up here and type in like main. It's going to go ahead and search, and I press escape, and yep, here I am, great. Now if I type in main again, you'll notice that it's auto-completing for me because I previously typed it in. So to get this functionality, the developer who developed this, I think it was back in 2005, was like, hey, why don't we reuse something that has an MRU list? And that turned out to be the command window. And they just, pretty much just shoved the command window up into this little find bar.
Do you want to show the command window real quick?
Okay. What's the keyboard shortcut for that?
I have no idea.
Ah, Wes. I think it's Control-Alt-A. There you go. There you go. So this is the command window, right? Now, because they literally just shoved the control up into the toolbar, it actually is the command window. So if I use this greater than sign here, a little console prompt, it actually flips this find box into command mode. So if I type file, what's this?
A bug.
A bug. And what this actually is command completions from Visual Studio for all the commands on the menus and toolbars. So I can do like file dot, open file, hit enter, and it goes and executes the command, which is fantastic. So this bug actually turned into a feature, because we liked it so much and we shipped with it, that we added a keyboard shortcut to automatically put the find bar into this mode. So Control / you'll see will automatically put focus in there and put the prompt symbol in there. Now there's another one I want to show you with this, is there's aliases for commands, so you can have like short strings instead of file open file. And for file open file, it's actually OF. But this itself has its own completion. So I can do, what this is going to do is search over all the files in my solution. So I type, let's say I want to open wait. I type WA, wait CS, and it's going to go ahead and open that. And even things that aren't open, let's say I want to open up my app config. Down, enter. It's going to go ahead and open that. So, I use this a lot. I'm like Control / OF something, CPP, yeah, done. And, this is a really quick way to open files.
How many people have heard of that before? Is that new to a lot of folks here? Yeah, it looks like most people haven't heard of that.
Nice. So yeah, people often say bugs turn into features, but features, bugs are features.
Yeah.
Sometimes, no, this is actually one that turned out to be good. And there's one little more thing I want to show you to do with managing documents whilst I'm here. This little overflow, you've got to move your mouse up there. Kind of sucks. Control-Alt down is going to go and pop that up. And this supports type ahead, so like a starts with search. So if I want to open wait CS, I just press W and press enter. We're going to go ahead and open that file. Let's say I want the app config, A, press enter, go ahead and open that. Okay?
Cool.
Back to Wes.
All right. So now we're going to move on into the next section, which is search and find. And real quick, to differentiate between the two, when I talk about search, it's mostly just the overall search capabilities of Visual Studio as a whole. You'll notice a lot of the things we've added a few search boxes to VS11, and I'm going to be showing those off. Phil isn't going to talk about find, which is the Control-F, the Control-Shift-F, the finding files that you guys have been using for a while. So just to get started, you'll notice that a number of new tool windows, Toolbox, Solution Explorer, Error List, and then we've actually added it to a bunch of the ultimate features as well. Ultimate tool windows. We've added a search box up here. And thank goodness it's actually the same search box all over the place, so we don't have 12 different instances of it. But most of this does exactly like you expect. You type in button, and you get button. You type in list, and it'll go and filter down that list to just the stuff that you care about. But we've added in a few other places, so if I bring up the error list, let's just go ahead and insert two quick little errors. So I'll just type something here, and then I'll go into my other application and type error as well. So we should get two different types of errors here. Well, one of the nice things is with search and error list, it'll search over all the columns here. So if I'm looking for something just in a particular file, like state.vb, I can go and type in the file name, and it'll go and filter down this list to just the errors that are contained in that file. We also have added a new filter button to the error list as well. So now, without even typing anything, you can go and set this filter to either my open documents, my current project, or my current document. And once I select that, all of the errors are hidden in this filter mode, and you kind of see I'm showing one of two errors. And then every time I go and switch documents, it'll just show the errors from those documents and from those files. So definitely something new for Visual Studio 11. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Solution Explorer search. If you press Control semicolon, it'll take you over to Solution Explorer, and you can start to filter down this list, and it's using the Navigate to providers on the back end for a lot of the language information. But with the new single-click preview tab, every time I go and single-click on a result, it will go and jump to that line, and then once I find the one I'm looking for, I can just press Enter and have it open, or click the Promote tab. But since we are using Navigate 2 on the back end, one of the nice things about this is we do support some of the fuzzy search capabilities. So if I wanted Blackjack Game, I can just type in BJG, and it'll go and filter down that list just to Blackjack Game. So we will match on Camel Case as well for that. Now, the last big search box that we've added, and Jason showed off this very briefly in the What's New in Visual Studio 11 talk, is this guy up at the top here called Quick Launch. And the keyboard shortcut for this is Control backtick, or tilde. It's next to the 1 key, but people kind of mix those in between. But if I press that, it brings me up into the search box that will allow me to search over menus, options, and open documents really quickly. So in the past, every time I wanted to go create a new project, what I would do is I would hit File, New, and I would very, very carefully move my mouse over to Project. And oh, I miss it. Yeah, I do that all the time. Well, Control-Shift-N will do that, but if you don't want to remember the keyboard shortcut, all you have to do is go up here, type in New Project, or just Project, and it will show you all of the list of commands that contain those keywords. I've already invoked this, so one click, Enter, and I open up New Project. We can also do this for all of the other menus up there, but what I've been using it a lot for is adding classes. So for this particular project, instead of right-clicking and choosing Add Class, just go up here, type in Add Class, and then press Enter. The result that comes up will be the Add New Item dialog, and now I'm already where I need to go. I haven't even had to take my hands off the keyboard to go and add a class to VS. So really cool stuff that we've added for Quick Launch, and I did want to show off a few other features of this. It does more than just commands. It'll do options as well. So if I wanted to go and open up the font dialog, I just type in font, press Enter, and there I am. If I want to, we've also allowed people to surface keywords for options pages, and a few of these are built in. We'll definitely have more once we get the next release out. But just showing off something right here, if I type in RSS feed, you'll see that there's some text that says change the start page RSS newsfeed channel. It's not in the environment startup, so we've added the ability for people to give us keywords, and it'll take me directly to that page. And if I go and look at the options page for Quick Launch here, you'll see that we have 4 providers enabled. There's the most recently used list, which will store a list of, I think it's 50 right now, of the recently used commands that you've done, and every time you type, it'll filter that list down. But there's a shortcut key next to all of these, and this is really useful if you want to scope results to a particular category. So for instance, the shortcut for options is OPT. Now, if I want to go search for the debugging options, I don't want all of my menu commands that contain debug to show up in there. So if I type in OPT and then debug and press Enter, it will just show me results just from the debugging page. So that's a really quick and easy way that you guys can use to filter the results that show up in that list. All right, Phil, talk about Find.
Yeah, Find. All right, I switched projects here. I'm going to use this for my next demo, actually. But it's my little view model class, and I've got a whole bunch of dispatch methods here. And I'm using a dispatcher. I'm going to call that out for a reason. But bring up Find, Control F. This is the new Find UI that you may have seen in Jason's demo. Pretty nice. It was originated from the Pro Power Tools. And you know, it's kind of modern, like your favorite web browser. I type something in. Enter is going to go to the next result. Shift-Enter is going to go backwards. If you're a fan of the old keyboard shortcuts of F3, that still works to go forward, and Shift F3 still works to go backwards. There we go. And yeah, and Jason kind of touched on this about regular expression support. I want to call out something here is that we've actually changed the regular expression engine that we used from the 2010 release. We started using the .NET regular expression engine, so you can actually use the regular expressions you know and love, not the weird ones that were in the previous release of Visual Studio.
The Klingon version?
Yeah. They were the POSIX-style regular expressions, and I can't believe the number of emails and forum posts we'd have like, hey, I've tried this regular expression, it doesn't work. And like, literally, the only application on earth to use them was Visual Studio. I swear. I probably not, but anyway. So to enable regular expressions, you could click on this, but actually, Alt-Down is going to pop this open, then Alt-E to enable regular expressions, and Escape's going to dismiss it. So now I'm in regular expression mode. So I type in dispatch, nothing regular expression-y here just yet, but you'll see I have dispatcher and dispatch. I just want to match dispatch, not dispatcher, so I can do a nice little not followed by E. Now, I'm not going to talk about regular expression syntax. I think we could have a whole talk on that itself, but you know, so dispatch not followed by E, and you can see I just matched the methods down here. So that's kind of cool, right, to find some stuff. But where regular expressions come into their own is in find and replace. So Control H is going to bring up find and replace. And you'll see that I put the not E, which matches the character after dispatch, into a group. And I can reference that group from my replace. So let's say I want to rename dispatch to invoke. I can type in invoke and use $1 to reference the first group from my match. And then Alt-R is going to go ahead and replace down here the first instance. And that looks good, so let's press Alt-A to replace all. And you'll see it's replacing all within the file. So regular expressions are really powerful when doing find and replace. So dismiss this guy with escape. And let's just undo this, because I actually need this to compile later. Then you're probably wondering, hey, how do I get to find in files? I used to use Control F and then switch that little drop down to find in files, right? Well, we still have them in the product, and there's keyboard shortcuts for them. Control Shift F for find in files, and Control Shift H for replacing files. Now, whilst I'm in regular expression mode, which you can see is enabled here, I want to show you a neat little thing. This little arrow button. Anyone know what this does? Literally no one. This actually gives you snippets for regular expressions. So if you're unsure of the syntax, or like, hey, how do I match apples or oranges, we give you a little snippet for that, and clicking on one of those is going to insert it into the field, and the same for replace. So you can use this as a neat little reference if you get stuck. So I'm going to show you something in find in files. Let's search for double, because I know this application has a whole bunch of doubles. And you'll see that in my projector typeface on my laptop, and this is pretty big, this is 1440, I think.
Yep.
Even then, I can't really see all the results. It kind of mostly file path, which is kind of annoying. You can actually go ahead and customize this. It's a totally secret feature. There's no tools options for this. So we're going to use my best friend, and he's called regedit. I'm a tester, so I like to just, chuck things in there and see what happens. But I wouldn't advise you doing that.
Disclaimer, yeah.
Yeah, disclaimer, like, go and entering random values into the registry. You may find something cool, but you may also break your installation. devenv/setup if you want to fix everything. OK, so there's a link to the instructions within our deck, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so with the path, the key, and all that kind of stuff. But if you go to HKCU, Software Microsoft, we'll go to Visual Studio 11.0, find, and I'm going to add a new string value. We're going to call this guy find result format. And that's going to specify a format for find results. Now, I have a little snippet here because I have trouble remembering this. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to set a value here. And you'll notice I'm using $F, $E, $L, $T. So these dollar things, they're variables within the find result format. In the link, in the slides, there's all the variables you can use. But what this is going to do is not actually put the path, just the file name, the extension, the line number, and the match. So let's go ahead and click OK on that. And let's clear find results. And let's do a Control-Shift-F, and we'll search for double again. And you'll see I'm no longer printing the full file path. I'm just printing the file name. And there's tons of little variables and tokens you can use there. And it's really good if you're developing on a laptop.
How many of you guys like that? New stuff? Very cool. All right.
All right.
So we are moving along. I think for the last 20 minutes, we're going to be primarily focusing on debugging. So honestly, if you're going to get one thing out of this presentation, learn how to be a better debugger. And that is where you're going to spend most of your time inside Visual Studio, regardless of how good of a developer you are. We spend a lot of our time in the debugger, learn the keyboard shortcuts for using those, and we're going to go through a few of those here right now. So first thing, this is just a simple blackjack application. I have a C# version of this. You can use VB as well. And most people, when they want to go and set a breakpoint for this, would probably press F9, press F5, and run the application. I'm guessing that's what almost all of you would do. F9 is the keyboard shortcut to go and set breakpoints and also to remove breakpoints. But I did want to show you guys a different keyboard shortcut that you can use to start debugging. It's called Run to Cursor. And if I press Control F10, that will go and launch my application. And then as soon as I go and hit that breakpoint, which I think is after deal, it will automatically break into that code without inserting breakpoints in here. So breakpoints are great. They're nice, but they can kind of be cumbersome if you have to clean them up. So Control F10, Run to Cursor, is really useful for just quick little debugging tips. But what's cooler about this is that you can actually use it anywhere once you've started debugging as well. So if I wanted to go down to, say, this line of code right here, instead of pressing F10, which is step over and over again, you can press Control F10 and it'll automatically jump down to that line of code. So really useful for quickly jumping between different parts of the running application. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to show you guys here. This little arrow over here, once I press Control F10, jump down to this line of code. And that does set the next statement to be executed. But did you guys realize that you can actually move this back up? So if I click and drag and move it back up here, my program execution has now changed and gone back in time back to this line. And really all that's happening under the covers is that we're changing the function pointer and re-executing this code. So I think even if you hover over it, it says, this may have unintended consequences if you start to drag this thing around. But this is really useful if you've gone and stepped into, let's say like 5, 10 methods, and you don't want to have to repeat that every single time. You can use this to move it around to a different point in your application, and then press F5, and it will go continue debugging from that point on. So really cool tip. How many people knew about that, the program execution? Awesome, great. So let's go and set a breakpoint. I can press F9, and I'm going to go in and try to hit this. And what I want to do is monitor some variables in here. So I can go and let's say for this particular instance, I want to keep an eye on the balance for this player. And I want to make sure that after I've lost or won, the balance gets updated. Well, I can drag this guy down into the watch window, or I can come over here and click the little pin icon, which will pin this data tip directly inside my editor inside Visual Studio. And what's nice about this is it gives you context exactly where you are using this instance. So let's go ahead and continue debugging, and I will hit and then stand, and oh, dude, I won. So fantastic. I go and deal again, and you'll notice that the value changed. And when it changes, it turns red. And so this is really useful for you guys to monitor variables and how they execute during the lifetime of your program. But what's really cool about this is if I go and stop debugging, you can click the stop button, or Shift F5 will also stop debugging as well, you'll see that the pin icon is actually still there. And if I hover over it, it shows me the value from the last debug session. Now, you guys might be wondering where this is useful. Well, if you set this on a variable that you think might be causing a crash, let's just say you have a Stack Overflow somewhere, or some infinite loop, you can actually pin data tips in a few different places, press F5, let your application crash, and then you can see the value that it ended up with before the program crashed. So instead of going through line by line trying to figure out exactly what's going on there, this is really, really useful for just spot checking a few different places and then seeing that value that shows up there. Cool. So a few other things that people have been asking for is that I just wanted to show off real quick. Let's go and debug this one more time. If I go and start stepping into some code, let's place a bet. So if I go and step into some code with F11, you'll notice that all of these F11 step into calls go and open up in the preview tab. Now, as you're going through this, this is really nice so that we don't start opening up a bunch of different files in your tab well. But if you ever need to get back to a previous file, even after you've stopped debugging, you can go and hit Control- or navigate back over here, and it'll go through all of the places that your code stepped through. So Control- will go and pick up all the old locations that you were while debugging, even in your preview tab instance.
Nice.
All right.
Wes, do we make some changes to Navigate too, right, as we made it simpler? Because it used to be like this gargantuan nest of menus.
Yeah, it used to be grouped by file, and then you had a little arrow out. Now it is just a flat list of the last places you visited. So we hope it's a little bit easier to use than the old file grouping that we had before. Okay. All right.
All right, so some more debugging. I'm going to show you my little application I put together. It's pretty neat, I think.
This gets pretty advanced right here, but we wanted to throw in some pretty advanced but useful concepts in this presentation as well.
So I wrote a little fractal renderer. I kind of like the Pink Floyd style color scheme here. You'll notice that it's kind of getting progressively sharper as it renders, so we're using some tasks here. This is just something I made for fun for this, and this is going to be our demo application. Make note of the color scheme, because we're going to be playing around with that. And so there you go. So actually, I'm going to fit in, we've got lots of time, I'm going to fit in something that I missed from Channel 9 today.
Okay.
Someone asked us, how do I get to the Navigate toolbar? And we were like, oh, we don't know. And so I did look up the keyboard shortcut. So Control F2 is going to put focus up in this navigation bar at the top here. Tab can switch us to members, then popping this down. We can navigate between all the methods in the file, but this also supports type ahead, just like the file drop-down I showed you. So I want to go to a method called fill color lookup. So I can just press F like that. So like F, press enter, it's going to jump me there. So that's Control F2. I feel really bad for not answering that one live on air, so I've done it now, hopefully. So this is a simple method. You give it a set of base colors, and it interpolates between them, generating a set of 255 colors, so we get a nice smooth color scheme. And it calls this generate color set method and has an enumerable color, and then just shoves it in as integer values as a local thing, but we don't need to worry about that. But I'm going to use run to cursor, just like Wes showed you. So let's use Control F10. It's going to start executing. There we go. Let's get rid of this output window. It's kind of in the way. All right. And so we have this final colors thing, and I want to go and have a look at the values of it. The expression cause side effects cannot be evaluated because I'm using a yield within a yield, and I guess the expression engine can't figure that out. So I still really want to look at the values and find color. How can I do that? And it's an enumerable, it's not an array. So we can use the immediate window, my favorite thing in Visual Studio. Control-Alt-I to bring up the immediate window. So everyone probably knows this question mark variable, final colors, is going to go ahead and print something. Now, this doesn't get me very far. It's just saying, hey, it's an enumerable. Isn't that nice? Go away. But one thing we can actually use is some of the extension methods on link. So I can call .toArray on this guy. It's going to go and convert this enumerable into array, execute it, and then print the values back. It takes a little time. It is pre-release software.
Do you want me to play the piano? Wait.
There we go. So it's gone ahead and executed that, and it's printed all the colors you see. It's generated here. But what's really cool about this is you can start combining these extension methods. So let's say, hey, I just want to take the first 10. You can say take 10, .toArray, and it's going to print just the first 10. And let's say, hey, I just want from 10 to 20 because I think I have a bug there. So I can do skip 10, take 10, and you can imagine, there you go. You can imagine combining these to find your way around an enumerable that you normally couldn't from the debugger. I use this one a ton at work. We use yield a ton. In our implementations, we use enumerable a ton, and this is really, really useful. Another little one I like to use is element at. And so this is like a fake array indexer. Even though it's not array, I want the 50th element. So I'm going to go ahead and get that and print that for me. So this is really, really useful for using enumerable. So I'm going to do some more with the immediate window now, and we're going to use the go back in time drag. What's it called again? Set next statement. Yes, we're going to use set next statement. Let's just close this out actually. Keyboard shortcut for that is Control Shift F10. So that's moved me back. It's set the function pointer up, and I want to mess around with a set of base colors here. So it goes from black to purple to red to yellow. But I can actually do it. So let's say Wes wants it to be grayscale. He's really fond of that color scheme. I could go and edit this, stop, edit, recompile, F5, right? But I can actually just do this right from the debugger without recompiling. So let's bring up the immediate window. And pro tip, this thing also can act like a command window. So I put that little greater than sign in there, and I'm going to get my commands. There's a useful one called CLS, which is clear screen, so you guys can get an easier view. And so let's have a look at this local variable. Base colors. All right, so here's our colors. That's nice. But we can go ahead and redefine it. So I can do base colors equals new color array. And we're going to get some little IntelliSense here. And let's do colors.black to colors.white. And that's going to, ooh, not wheat, white. Maybe that'll, hey, let's try it. Let's try it.
All right.
Let's try it. Or no, maybe we should use lemon chiffon.
Ooh.
Lemon chiffon, there we go. I have no idea what this is going to look like. I've been using white every time, but it's a great color name. All right, so there we go. I've redefined that, and if we query it again, you can see it's just got two members now. So I've changed the value of that. I haven't even left the debugger at all. So let's go ahead and execute. Little pro tip, you can do this immediate window, debug.start. You can do G, greater than G for go. Just like you can in WinDBG, and you can see now I've changed my color scheme from the purpley Pink Floydy thing to the black to lemon chiffon. So that's a really useful little tip when using immediate window. Now the last thing I'm going to cover is something on trace points. So let's switch back over here. Still running under the debugger, and Control F2. Yep, just so I remember that one. And we want to go to a method called render chunk. So this is the guy which is in charge. Let's get rid of these guys. There you go. This is the guy that's in charge of rendering a pass, right? And you notice I've got a little stopwatch here, and this times how long it takes. And I want to go and observe that. So I'm going to go add a breakpoint here with F9, and let's just go ahead and zoom in again to cause it to re-render. You go away. Actually, I'm going to show you another little keyboard shortcut. Want this to go away? Alt space. There you go. We'll bring up the Windows context menu. C. Come on, C. Ooh, whoa. I got a little bit carried away there. Let's try that again. Control-I. Yeah, Alt space C. We'll close it.
That actually works with any floating window. Really useful if you have floating documents on another monitor. Just don't use it on Visual Studio because that will close the application.
Yes.
Just be a little careful.
So we see we've got this stopwatch here, and it's going to have a elapsed time property. So we're going to go and pin that, just like Wes showed us earlier. And I know that I render in 8 passes, so I get more and more sharp. So, okay, it's really quick, and I want to look at my application, but I can't. Oh, no, broken again, and yes. It's kind of really frustrating with a UI application when you're hitting something that's in a loop, right? So, because this has no, I want to just look at the time of the last one, but I don't really know, it's hit again and again. So one thing I can actually do, instead of using a breakpoint and using a pin data tip or any kind of expression, is I can turn this into a trace point. So let's go and take this breakpoint here and right-click on it, and we'll say when hit. And we can say print a message. So I'm going to print a message saying render chunk complete. It's going to go to the output window. And you can also actually put expressions in here and print their values to the output window. So just like I used that pin data tip on stopwatch.elapse, if I put it in curly braces, I can put stopwatch, start elapsed. And it's going to go ahead and print the value of that to the output window. You'll notice there's some special keywords down the bottom here, which you can use, still start with a $sign, so I can print the thread ID. Now, the one you actually really want to use is probably the call stack, $call stack, but that doesn't demo very well, so I'm just going to use the thread ID just to show you how that works. And you'll notice there's a checkbox here that says continue execution. And what this is saying is don't break, just print the message and continue straight on. So let's set that, and you'll see my circular breakpoint is now turned into a diamond, which indicates a trace point. And let's bring up the output window with Control-Alt-O. There we go. And let's zoom in again. And you'll see, instead of breaking, I've got a whole bunch of output on my output debug pane. And this is really useful. You usually do it like
debug.writeline on steroids, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, normally you'd use debug.writeline or trace.writeline or something, right? Now, trace.writeline doesn't just go to the output window. You can do a whole console logging around that. But I didn't have to recompile at all. I just want to find something out, add the trace point, and this is great for loops especially. One thing to bear in mind is it does slow down execution of your application under the debugger because it's got to go and do those evaluations. So use them sparingly. If they're, only use them when needed, and then disable them when you don't need them. I'll actually touch on that in a little bit. Now, there's one little thing I want to show you here. So I've got my little messages. I've also got all this other stuff, right? Module loading, thread exiting, and I don't really care about this, right? It's kind of in my way. That's the way I look at it, at least. I don't really care for thread exits. So you can go to, Tools, Options, Debugging, Messages, and disable all of these. There's a little hidden thing here. If you right-click on the debug pane, you can actually disable them right from there. Yeah, I just found that out about a week ago, and I was like, let's right-click in here and see what happens. Oh, sweet. So I can uncheck load, unload, and let's uncheck thread exit, and that's gone and set those settings for me straight away. Now let's clear this, and we'll restart debugging with Control-Shift-F5. So what that's going to do is not do a recompile, it's just going to stop the start, right? No compile in between. So let's restart debugging. And now you see my output window doesn't have all the module load and thread exit messages. It just has the stuff I want to print and these little step over messages. So that's really quite useful.
Yeah?
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Oh, yes, about trace points, right? So if I use F9 right now and turn this off, it's going to like nuke it. It's gone. All that print message, tough. Press F9 again, it's going to go back to a normal breakpoint. Kind of frustrating, right? So if you use Control F9, it actually disables. So F9 toggles and Control F9 disables. So I can use F9 to enable it again, but Control F9 to disable. And this is really useful. Once you put the effort in to describe that trace message, you kind of want to keep it around, I guess, hopefully, unless you fix the problem in one go, and then you're great. But I'm not that good, so I usually like to keep them around and disable and enable them. And I think that's about it.
Cool.
Yeah?
Did you guys learn something new? Nice. So just to wrap up real quick, the slides have all of the commands that we've gone through along with the keyboard shortcuts for all of this as well. If you guys want to come up, for those that are in the audience, we do have a printout right now that you can take with you and practice these and start using these right away. Some more information, just some blogs for you guys to go and check out. And finally, if you guys go to the Build website, you can submit feedback by clicking Submit Feedback, and it'll take you to the session feedback link for this. We'd love any feedback you guys have on this. Thank you, and have a good day.
Yeah, thanks, guys.